everybody, and welcome to the first video on the straight line graph. So the thing that we're going to go through first is the equation of a straight line graph. The straight line graph is one of the easier, more simpler functions that we do. There is nothing much to it, it's just a straight line. So first of all, we're going to go through the equation. So this equation, y is equal to mx plus c, is known as the standard form. And how do we get it in the standard form is we always make y the subject. In a straight line graph, we know what the equation of the graph is if we know what the gradient is, and that is represented by m in the equation. M is the coefficient of x. In the next video, we will go through the details of the gradient of the straight line. The next parameter that we need to know for a straight line is the y-intercept. This is where it cuts the y-axis. So if we know what m and c is, then we know what the equation of a straight line graph is. So how do we know that we are looking at the equation of a straight line graph, or how do we identify that this is an equation of a straight line graph? Is that the equation is a linear function of x. Now that might sound really fancy, but all that means is that x has no exponent that's higher than 1, so x's power is always 1. There's no square terms, cube terms of x or any of the sorts. X is never in the exponent, x is never in the denominator, and that means that it's a linear function of x. So let us have a look at a quick example. So for this example here, all we have to do is identify whether this is the equation of a straight line graph or not. So keeping in mind that a straight line graph is a linear function of x, let us have a go through this exercise. If you would like, please pause the video now and attempt the questions by yourself and then mark it with me after you're done. Okay, the first one, is it a straight line graph? Well, it's in standard form. We have 2x plus 1. It's a linear function. Yes. The second one, is it a straight line graph? Once again, it's in standard form. Y is the subject. It's a linear function of x. So yes. Number 3 is where a few students get a bit confused. They see x in a fraction and they immediately think that it's not a linear function. I would like to remind you that this you can write as y is equal to a half x plus 1. And if we write it, these forms are the same. And if we write it in this form, it is very clear that this is a linear function of x. So yes, it is a straight line function. This one here, we've got single x's, but can you see that there is a product? And this is the difference of two squares. So if we had to multiply it out, what are we going to get? That y is equal to x squared minus 1. Now, because of the x squared, you can see that it is no longer a linear function. It is not a linear function of x. So no, this is not an example of a straight line equation. For number 5, again, this is a bit confusing for students because of the fraction, but remember that we can write this over the common denominator as x over 4 plus 2 over 4. And then what we have is that this can be written as y is equal to a quarter x plus a half if we did some simplifying. And you can see then it's very simply in standard form and it is a linear function of x. So yes, this is a straight line. This one again, let us try and write it out and multiply it out. So what we're going to get is y is equal to, we're going to have to distribute that x. So we're going to get x squared plus 3x. Looking at this equation, is it an equation of a straight line? Well, no, because there's a squared power there and a straight line is a linear function of x. This one here, again, it's hard for us to tell because it's not in standard form. So let's quickly make y the subject. I'm going to do it over here. So 2y is equal to 3x plus 4, and I'm going to take that 1 over, so it's going to be negative 1. So we have 2y is equal to 3x plus 3, and then I'm going to get rid of the 2 by dividing both sides by 2, and we get y is equal to 3 over 2x plus 3 over 2. Having a look at this, now we can clearly see when it's in standard form that it is indeed a linear function of x, and that means it's a straight line graph. This one here, is this a straight line graph? No. When x is in the denominator, then it is not a linear function of x. So here were a few examples where I looked at the equation and saw whether it was the equation of a straight line graph, and I hope that you have understood how do we identify a straight line graph from the equation. Please watch the next video for more information on straight line graphs.